When night falls on Amami Oshima, the island becomes quiet. The sound of the sea fades, the wind slows down, and everything feels still. But for the people living there, this silence is not peaceful. It is scary. Because when darkness comes, something dangerous wakes up. The habu snakes. In the 1980s, this Japanese island was full of fear. Every year, hundreds of people were bitten by these snakes. In 1980 alone, there were around 400 cases. The bite of a habu is very painful and can even kill a person in a few hours. People learned to be careful all the time. They walked with flashlights at night, checked their shoes before wearing them, and never left their doors open after dark. The habu is not just any snake. It belongs to the pit viper family, close relatives of rattlesnakes and cobras. It can grow over 2 meters long and has sharp fangs that can go right through shoes or clothes. Its venom is so strong that it destroys the blood and skin around the bite. Some people survived, but many were left with lasting injuries. But what made the habu truly frightening was not just its poison, it was how many of them there were. The island was full of them. They lived in the forests, the rice fields, and even near people's homes. No one felt safe, especially at night. Doctors did have an antidote, a medicine that could stop the venom, but there was one big problem. It had to be kept cold, and many small villages had no electricity. Most snake bites happened far away from hospitals, deep in the hills. Every time someone was bitten, it became a race to save their life. Families carried the injured person through dark, rough paths, hoping to reach help before the venom spread too far. The Japanese government didn't know what to do. Building electricity lines into the mountains would take years and a lot of money. Making a new kind of antidote would take even longer. People were scared, angry, and desperate. Then someone came up with a strange idea, something that sounded like it came from a movie. If humans couldn't stop the snakes, maybe another animal could. Scientists started to look for a natural enemy of the habu, something that could fight snakes and survive their bites. They soon found the perfect candidate, the mongoose. Mongooses are small, quick, and brave animals. They are famous for fighting cobras in India. Their bodies have special protection that helps them survive snake venom. They move fast, bite faster, and usually win against snakes much bigger than them. So, in 1979, 30 mongooses were brought to Amami Oshima. People were excited. They believed these little animals would finally free the island from fear. No more deadly snakes, no more sleepless nights. But nature doesn't always follow human plans. No one knew then that this great idea would soon turn into one of Japan's biggest ecological disasters. At first, everything looked perfect. The mongooses were small but brave, fast but strong. People believed they would finally fight back against the habu snakes. When the 30 mongooses were released on Amami Oshima, everyone felt hope for the first time in years. The plan sounded smart. In nature, snakes and mongooses are old enemies. Mongooses are famous for fighting cobras. They move faster, bite harder, and don't fear venom. They seem like born snake hunters. So, it made sense that they could do the same with the habu. The government and scientists were sure this plan would save lives. For a while, people waited. They thought, soon the snakes will disappear and our island will be safe again. Families imagined a future without fear, where their children could play outside even after sunset. But months passed, and nothing changed. Snake bites continued. The habu were still everywhere, in the forests, on the roads, even near the farms. The number of bites didn't go down at all. People began to wonder, what went wrong? It turned out the truth was simple, and almost funny if it wasn't so serious. The mongooses and the snakes were never even meeting each other. Mongooses are day animals. They hunt and move around when the sun is up. Habu snakes are night hunters. They come out only after dark. So while the mongooses were sleeping, the snakes were awake. And when the mongooses woke up, the snakes were already gone. They lived on the same island, but in different worlds. The great snake war that everyone imagined never happened. Instead, the mongooses began looking for other food. They found it easily: small birds, eggs, frogs, lizards, and especially one very special animal, the Amami rabbit. The Amami rabbit is a rare species that lives only on 2 small Japanese islands. It's an ancient animal, a living fossil that has survived since the time of the dinosaurs. But this gentle rabbit had no idea how to defend itself from the new predator. The mongooses started hunting them. Their population began to fall fast, and not just rabbits, other small native animals also started to disappear. The balance of nature that had existed for thousands of years began to break. By the early 1990s, the people of Amami Oshima realized something terrible. The mongooses were not heroes, they were becoming villains. They were attacking animals that had lived peacefully on the island for ages. The plan to save the island from snakes had created a new disaster. One farmer later said, "Before, we were afraid of the habu. Now we are afraid of what we brought to fight them. And the worst part? The mongooses were growing in number, fast. No one could stop what was coming next. At first, people thought only a few mongooses were on the island, just 30 of them. But nature moves fast. Within a few years, the mongooses began to multiply. They had plenty of food and no natural enemies. The island was warm, full of cover, and perfect for them. Soon, they were everywhere. By the 1990s, thousands of mongooses were living on Amami Oshima. And by the year 2000, their number had exploded. Around 10,000 mongooses were running wild across the island. But these mongooses were not fighting snakes. They were attacking almost everything else. The people of Amami Oshima were shocked. The plan that was supposed to save them had turned into a nightmare. The island's ecosystem, a system that had stayed balanced for thousands of years, was now falling apart. Around 15 native species were suddenly in danger of disappearing forever. Some animals were found only on Amami Oshima and nowhere else on Earth. Now they were being wiped out by creatures that didn't even belong there. It wasn't just about animals. The mongooses were also creating problems for farmers. They ate fruits, damaged fields, and sometimes carried diseases that could spread to pets or livestock. People were losing crops, chickens, and sleep, all because of these small, fast-moving invaders. The government realized something had to be done, and fast. So in the year 2000, Japan launched a mission that sounded like something from a movie. They called it the Amami Mongoose Busters. A special team was formed to find and remove the mongooses from the island. Their goal was simple but massive: stop the mongoose invasion before it was too late. The team started setting traps all around the island, but it wasn't easy. Mongooses were smart and fast. They learned quickly and avoided danger. Normal traps didn't always work. The busters had to keep improving their methods, testing new kinds of traps, adding special bait that smelled like food mongooses liked, and sometimes using trained sniffer dogs to track them down. The operation turned into a long, serious fight. Every day, the busters would check hundreds of traps, walking through dense forests and rough terrain. They needed patience, skill, and a lot of teamwork. Years passed. Children grew up seeing traps around their villages. Some of them even joined the team when they became adults. The mongoose hunt had become part of island life. Still, the mongooses were clever survivors. They hid deep in the forest, made new nests, and continued to breed. Catching them all seemed impossible, but the people of Amami Oshima didn't give up. They were determined to fix the mistake of the past, no matter how long it took. The war between humans and mongooses was far from over. It would go on for more than 2 decades. The fight against the mongooses was not short. It became a battle that lasted for many years, almost 25. At first, people thought it would only take a few months to catch them all, but the mongooses were much smarter than anyone expected. They learned how to avoid traps. They moved quietly, made their homes deep inside the jungle, and traveled far away from villages. The Amami Mongoose Busters didn't stop trying. They kept improving their plans every year. At the beginning, they used simple metal traps, but those caught only a few mongooses. So the team designed new traps that matched the mongoose's size and body shape. That way, other animals wouldn't get caught by mistake. Then they started using poison bait, small pieces of food that looked and smelled delicious to mongooses. The poison worked fast, but was made carefully so it wouldn't harm other animals. Later, they brought in trained dogs, special sniffers that could find mongoose nests just by smell. These dogs became real heroes. They searched through forests, mountains, and even near villages. Every mongoose they found meant another step closer to saving the island. Still, it was not easy. The mongooses were quick, clever, and spread out across a large island. For years, the team caught hundreds, then thousands, but new ones always appeared. It felt like a never-ending fight. Meanwhile, the people on the island learned to live with the mission. Children who were born when the mongoose hunt began grew up hearing stories about it. By the time they became adults, some even joined the mongoose busters. It was no longer just a government project. It had become part of the island's history. Every trap caught, every mongoose removed, brought a small sense of victory, and slowly, very slowly, the balance of nature began to return. The Amami rabbits started to appear again in some areas. Birds that had disappeared were heard singing once more. The forest was healing. Then came the day no one thought would ever arrive. In 2024, after almost 25 years of hard work, the government made an announcement that shocked everyone. The mongooses on Amami Oshima were gone. Completely gone.
本当にありがとうございます。おめでとうございます。
For the first time in history, humans had successfully removed an invasive mongoose population from a large island. It was a huge victory, not just for Japan, but for conservation efforts around the world. The people of Amami Oshima finally felt peace again. The island could breathe. Nature had been given a second chance. But this victory came with a twist of irony. By the time the mongooses were defeated, the danger from the habu snakes had already become much smaller. Thanks to better medical access and improved antidotes, snake bites had dropped sharply. In 1980, there were 400 bites a year. By 2020, there were only around 60, and since 1992, not a single person had died from a habu bite. So, in the end, science and human care, not mongooses, had solved the problem. The plan that once caused disaster had finally ended in success, but not in the way anyone expected. The islanders learned a hard lesson. Sometimes, trying to control nature can lead to bigger problems than the one you started with. In the 1930s, Australia faced a serious problem. Sugarcane beetles were destroying crops across Queensland, and farmers were desperate to find a way to stop them. Then came an idea that seemed smart and harmless. Bring in an animal that could eat the beetles. The choice was the cane toad, a large, warty amphibian from South America known for eating almost anything that moves. People believed the toads would solve the beetle problem once and for all. In 1935, scientists released just over 100 cane toads into the sugarcane fields of northern Australia. They expected the toads to hunt down the beetles, but nature had other plans. The beetles lived high up on the tall sugarcane stalks, while the toads stayed on the ground. The two never met. Instead of eating beetles, the toads began feeding on everything else they could find: bugs, lizards, frogs, even small mammals. Soon, the real problem appeared. The cane toads were poisonous. Their skin released a deadly toxin that killed almost any animal that tried to eat them. Native predators like snakes, goannas, and even crocodiles died after eating a single toad. Pets were poisoned too. Within a few years, the toads had spread across thousands of kilometers, breeding at a frightening rate. A single female could lay up to 30,000 eggs at once. With no natural enemies, their numbers exploded. The invasion changed everything. Native wildlife disappeared, food chains broke, and parts of the ecosystem collapsed. Today, millions of cane toads still move slowly westward, covering more land each year. What began as an attempt to protect crops turned into one of the biggest environmental mistakes in history. The cane toad became a living warning that sometimes trying to fix nature can destroy it even more. Before the cane toads came, Australia had already faced another invasion, one that began much earlier and became one of the worst disasters in history. It started in the 1850s with a man named Thomas Austin, a wealthy landowner in Victoria. Austin had come from England and missed the familiar countryside and his favourite pastime, hunting rabbits. So in 1859, he asked his brother back home to send him 24 rabbits. He wanted to release them on his property so he could hunt them for sport. That small decision changed an entire continent. Australia's open grasslands, mild climate, and soft soil were perfect for rabbits. There were no natural predators to keep them in check, and food was everywhere. Within a few years, those few rabbits multiplied into thousands, and soon, millions. Farmers said they could see the ground moving at night, not from wind, but from countless rabbits hopping across their fields. They ate everything: grass, crops, and young plants. When the land was bare, the soil began to dry and blow away. Without grass to feed on, sheep and cattle started to die. What began as a harmless game had turned into an unstoppable plague. Desperate, the government decided to build fences to stop the rabbits. But these were no ordinary fences. They were massive barriers stretching for thousands of kilometers across the country. The most famous one, called the Rabbit-Proof Fence, ran over 3,000 kilometers through Western Australia. It took years to finish and cost a fortune. But in the end, it didn't work. The rabbits dug under it, squeezed through tiny holes, or simply found their way around the ends. No matter what people did, the rabbits always came back. Then scientists tried a new idea. In the 1950s, they released a virus called myxomatosis. It spread quickly and killed over 90% of the rabbit population. For a moment, it seemed like victory, but nature adapted. The few rabbits that survived became immune to the disease, and soon their numbers began to grow again. Later, in the 1990s, scientists tried another virus called calicivirus, which wiped out millions more. But once again, some rabbits survived, and the cycle continued. Even today, after more than a century and a half, rabbits remain one of Australia's biggest environmental problems. They continue to destroy crops and natural habitats, and farmers still struggle to control them. What began with just 24 rabbits cost the country billions of dollars and left deep scars on its land. The rabbit plague became a warning to the world. It showed how one small choice, a simple wish for a familiar animal, can spiral into disaster when humans ignore the balance of nature. Once that balance is broken, it is almost impossible to restore. After World War II, the small Pacific island of Guam faced a quiet invasion, one that arrived by accident but ended in tragedy for the island's wildlife. It all started when ships and cargo planes from other regions began bringing supplies to the island. Hidden among those shipments was a single stowaway that would change Guam forever: the brown tree snake. No one noticed when the first snakes arrived, probably sometime in the late 1940s. At first, they stayed hidden in the forests. But with no natural predators and plenty of food, they began to multiply rapidly. Guam was full of birds, small mammals, and lizards, an easy feast for the snakes. Within just a few decades, the island was overrun. The brown tree snake is not among the most venomous snakes in the world, but it is highly aggressive. It hunts both day and night, climbing trees, fences, and even entering houses through windows or power lines. It eats almost anything it can swallow: eggs, chicks, and even small pets. By the 1980s, the damage was shocking. Guam had once been home to 12 native bird species, but the snake wiped out almost all of them. Today, only a few survive, mostly on nearby islands where the snake hasn't spread. The disaster didn't stop with wildlife. The snakes often crawl onto power poles, causing electrical blackouts that affect entire towns. They also create problems for airports and even threaten human safety. For decades, scientists and the US government have tried to control them using traps, fences, and even parachuted poisoned mice. But the snakes remain difficult to remove. The story of Guam shows how one small mistake, one hidden passenger, can destroy an entire ecosystem. Like the rabbits and cane toads before them, the brown tree snakes remind us that nature always reacts, and sometimes it doesn't forgive. After the mongoose disaster on Amami, Japan faced another problem, this time on the island of Okinawa. The same idea that once seemed clever on one island was repeated on another, using mongooses to fight the deadly habu snakes. It started in the early 1900s when officials brought a small group of mongooses, only about 17 animals, to the island. They hoped the mongooses would hunt the venomous snakes and make the island safer for people. At first, the plan sounded promising. Mongooses were fast, brave, and known to resist snake venom. But just like on Amami, the idea failed in a way no one expected. Mongooses are daytime hunters, while the habu snakes are active mostly at night. The two rarely met. Instead of chasing snakes, the mongooses began attacking native animals, birds, lizards, and small mammals that had never faced such a predator before. Over the years, the mongoose population exploded, spreading through forests, villages, and farmlands. Many of Okinawa's native species began to disappear, including several rare birds found nowhere else on Earth. The situation grew so bad that by the 2000s, scientists called it an ecological emergency. To stop the spread, the government began building special fences designed to block mongooses from moving into protected areas. These fences were clever. They had an L-shaped base that stopped mongooses from digging underneath. Traps and sniffer dogs were also used to capture them, just like the mongoose busters on Amami Oshima. Today, after decades of effort, the mongoose population on Okinawa has slowly declined, but complete victory is still far away. The lesson from Okinawa is clear. Once an invasive species is released, it's almost impossible to take back. What began as a plan to fight snakes turned into a century-long battle to save an island's natural life. And that's it for today. From deadly snakes and clever mongooses to unstoppable rabbits and poisonous toads, these stories remind us how easily humans can disturb nature's balance. Each invasion began with good intentions, but ended in disaster. Islands lost their birds, forests went silent, and lessons were learned the hard way. So, which story surprised you the most? The fearless mongooses of Japan, the endless rabbits of Australia, or the sneaky snakes of Guam? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Don't forget to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and join us for more strange and true tales from the wild side of our world.